Wow, back again, and just before I get this started, a bit of a more serious thing before I start what I'm going to talk about. Sometimes when you get in a funk, it's very hard to get out of it, and you just sometimes you just want to sit in your room, shut all the blinds, just you don't want to see anyone. You want to keep yourself in that dark mind. You want to stay chained down, and I was feeling like that for a few days, and I just remembered just to get the fucking chains off, get off out of my ass, open the blinds, get out there, and start communicating, start keeping myself busy. And anyone that has to go through that, or anyone that's in that state of mind, I just urge you, get the fucking chains off, get up out of your ass, and start fucking battling these things that you have going on inside you, and I guarantee you, you'll feel a lot better. Now, what do I want to talk about? UFC 162. I believe it's UFC 162, and I might have said the wrong number, I picked the wrong main event. Anyways, UFC 162, there's one thing that I want to talk about, that I think we all want to talk about, and I did it briefly in a video before, about Canelo Alvarez, and I compared this fight to that, Alvarez-Mayweather. Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva. Now, if I want to say on a mainstream level, there's not a lot of a buzz about it, but in our audience, amongst people like us, the diehards, there's a lot of discussion going on. And what has made this discussion even more interesting is the fact that now, I think at least 17 fighters have come out and said they believe that Chris Weidman, I believe it's 17, I could be wrong, feel free to correct me, but quite a number of fighters have come out and have said they believe that Weidman is going to upset Anderson Silva. And I've been thinking about this, and thinking about this, and thinking about this. I thought about this at the beginning of the year, and I thought about it some more. And the question I want to ask to you out there, any MMA fan who happens to watch this, anyone that is subscribed to me, is Chris Weidman really that guy? Because this is getting very interesting. And a part of me is like, is this just marketing working on us? Have the UFC told all the fighters to come out there and say, this is the guy that's going to beat Anderson Silva, this is the guy that's going to beat Anderson Silva? Because it feels like every time you have an unbeaten champion, or a champion that's been on a roll, every opponent is the guy that's going to beat him. But then when you think about it, style-wise, Chris Weidman does present some problems there. If Weidman can get Anderson, close the distance on Anderson and take him down, I think he's going to do a lot of damage there. Weidman hits a lot harder than Chael Sonnen. He's a good enough wrestler where he can get him down. And from what I do know, Roger Gracie has a difficult time when he rolls with Chris Weidman. Like, I have heard very, very reliably that Weidman gives Roger Gracie a lot of trouble. And think about that. This is Roger Gracie, arguably the best BJJ guy in MMA and one of the best BJJ guys in the world, period. And Chris Weidman is giving him serious problems on there. And I believe that Weidman on the ground can give Anderson more problems than you realise. Now, I know everyone's going to say, well, Anderson is a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, and he is, and he's got very good grappling. But the fact that he is giving a guy like Roger Gracie problems and trouble when they roll speaks volumes about how good Chris Weidman can be on the ground. And I think that that's the key. If Weidman is going to be that guy, it's going to be because he closes the distance on Anderson, takes him down, and then he just gives him a world of problems on the ground. And I think that Weidman is more dangerous on the ground than Chael Sonnen. I don't think Weidman is as susceptible to submissions as Chael. Granted, he's only had, 9 or 10 fights, so we don't... How much do we really know? But we do know that he has the ground game, and he can sub guys, and he's got some submissions in his game. I believe he used the I can't even say it right. I don't want to say the name of the submission and then get it wrong, and then have some BJJ guy rip me for it. But we have seen him sub guys. And then you look at his last fight, and that's kind of where the debate kind of really deepens for me, because he did destroy Mark Munoz. Mark Munoz was the favourite to win that fight. In fact, Mark Munoz was said to be the next guy to win that fight, to win and fight Anderson Silva. And Chris Weidman destroyed him. And a lot of people are saying, well, Munoz was out of shape, he'd cut a lot of weight, he was not looking his best. Weidman beat a guy that wasn't 100%. That's the argument that's out there. But then I see Weidman take down a guy who's very hard to take down and control the guy on the ground. And that is a scary, scary man. And he busted Munoz open. I mean, you look at the scar on Munoz's head and the elbow that he hit him with, and then the bang, bang, bang on the ground, all the blood that just poured on the ground. That was destruction. I think the thing that hurt Weidman was this. That was on a weekday show on a network that not many people watched. So the momentum that he could have had if this was a semi-main event of a pay-per-view or a UFC on Fox show differs. And I think that's one of the reasons why he doesn't have the name. And perhaps one of the reasons why they've done this aggressive campaign where they have said they've got fighters to come out there and say that. Now, I believe George St. Pierre really believes it. I believe quite a few fighters really believe it. But I do wonder if this is a marketing thing from other people where they've said, look, we need to generate hype for Chris Weidman. Can you hype him up by saying this? But then on the other hand, I do believe that Chris could give him some serious problems, especially on the ground, as I've said before. Now, in a way, with that being said, you're almost a fool to bet against Anderson Silva. The incredible Anderson Silva, the amazing Anderson Silva. We have seen what he's done to fighters throughout his career. We have seen, especially in the UFC, he destroyed Rich Franklin. And I remember way back in the day, and I believe it was MMA Weekly, or it might have been Trig Radio, but I remember Frank Trigg and some other panelists, and they were debating Rich Franklin and Anderson Silva. And a lot of them believed that Rich would beat Anderson. And Anderson came out and destroyed this guy and made him look like a clown. Anderson beat Dan Henderson, another guy who I felt, style-wise, could have been a serious nightmare for Anderson Silva. And granted, he lost the first round to him, but he came back and he beat him in the second round and choked him out. And then he fought some guys at middleweight that weren't really going to fight him and really challenge him. I think Patrick Cote, no disrespect to him, but I don't view him as an elite level fighter. Tyler Slater's a jiu-jitsu guy who was just scared and wet the bed to fight him. Damian Maia, phenomenal jiu-jitsu guy, but doesn't have the well-roundedness or the aggression to really give Anderson a lot of problems. Chael Sonnen was the only guy that I felt gave him a serious fight twice, and Chael probably could have beat him and pretty much almost won the belt if it weren't for the fact that he was so susceptible to submissions and his mental lapses. Chael could have been the UFC middleweight champion, but Anderson beat him. Yushin Okami, who just stood in front of him like a mannequin and didn't really do anything. He just didn't bring the fight to him. And then after that, there was a litany of guys, when he fought Chael after that, there was just a litany of guys that were coming up that could beat him. Vitor Belfort was the other one, and I think Vitor was a phenomenal fighter, but how well-rounded of a striker is he? He relies a lot on boxing, although now we're seeing him use kicks, but Anderson came out and kicked his head off into the fifth row. And then after that, a lot of guys it was either Anderson's cleared out the division and he needs super fights, or someone new has to rise up. And all that was left was Bisping, Boech, Munoz, Weidman, Rockhold, and Jacare, who I think could be a threat to Anderson too at some point. And you've just seen Anderson make these guys look like fools, the guys that he's fought. And I think standing up in particular, if this is a stand-up fight, I think it's a very quick fight for Anderson, and I can see Anderson beating Chris Weidman very badly with stand-up. Because you compare Anderson's stand-up technique to Chris Weidman's stand-up technique, there's a big difference there. Anderson has that laser-like accuracy and that precision, and he's got just the ability to generate a finishing blow, whether it's from his hands or from his elbows or from his knees or from his feet. It's just scary, and the fact that guys that have stood to strike with him have looked like fools is even making me think if this is a stand-up fight, Anderson beats him. But we know that Anderson is susceptible to wrestlers, and Weidman is that, and he has the grappling to be a serious problem. Now, I'm going to stop, and I want to hear what you out there think. Write your comments, share this video, like this video, tell me what you think. Is Chris Weidman really that guy? And think about this. I like Weidman's confidence, because Weidman has come out, and this hasn't been like, oh well, I'm going to compete with Anderson, I find him as confident as Chael, but in a different way. But Weidman probably genuinely believes he's going to destroy Anderson. He's not taking him lightly, but he believes he can take Anderson out, and I like the confidence of Chris Weidman. And I believe that Chael had that confidence until he broke in the fight at some point. And you think about this, what does the UFC have to lose here? Well, if Anderson loses, there goes that super fight with George St. Pierre. There goes that potential super fight with John Jones, which I think is more than likely to happen. So, I don't know, it's a very interesting fight. It's a shame that it's not got the mainstream buzz that it should have. It's almost like a underdog Rocky story kind of being missed by the rest of the world. But I want to know what everyone else out there thinks. Can Weidman be that guy? What have you thought of Chris Weidman's performances in the UFC? I always felt that he should have had maybe one more fight before he fought Anderson Silva. Perhaps against a Michael Bisping or a Kung Lee or a Vitor Belfort. Someone where it's a semi-main event where his name gets boosted from the victory and then goes on to fight Anderson and gets more, mainstream attention for it. That was always my belief with Weidman. I never thought that he was a bad fighter. I think he's a very, very good fighter. So, I'm going to stop. Have I got anything else I want to share with you? No? Guys, write your comments. Let me know what you think. Is Weidman really that guy? Are we being fooled? Are we being deceived? Do you think that Weidman's going to surprise everyone? How do you see the fight going? How do you see the rest of the card going? You let me know what you think. I love MMA. I know that you do too. Check out my content. I do MMA videos. I do pro wrestling videos. Don't be put off by that if you're a die-hard MMA fan. You can just watch the MMA videos. If you love both, write about both. Guys, I'm out of here. See you soon and peace.